Hello, you guys. Happy Saturday. I'm on the floor sunbathing with my fur baby, Xander. If you have a Dotson, he lifted his ears when I said his name. Hey, Xander. Anyway, he's sunbathing and sleeping. There you go. Hey, buddy. If you guys have Dotsons, most of you guys know that Dotsons like to, most dogs anyway, but for sure, Dotsons love to sunbathe. So Xander loves to sunbathe. I had my other baby, he loved to sunbathe too. That's just the thing. But I wanted to hop on here real quick like. So one of the things I wanted to hop on here real quick like was to discuss cycle syncing and drinking coffee on an empty stomach and the lessons that I learned with that. So I try to find information that I see fit that might help everybody, may not help anybody, because somebody may not help some people because they may not care, it don't faze them, or doesn't apply to them. But however, there's some people that are intrigued by these different concepts. So I figure I chime in a little bit while I'm sunbathing with my dog. If you hear a washing machine, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like all I do is wash clothes. When you work out 5-6 days a week, I feel like that's all I do is just wash clothes all the time. Like, I don't understand that. Am I the only one? But anyway, while I'm sitting up here chilling with my doggo, I decided to look up a little bit from what I found in cycle syncing when it comes to exercise. See his little foot, so cute, with his little toe beans. But if people don't know what cycle syncing is, for the most part, I mean, we all heard that concept. Ooh, my nails. Yeah, I'm still working on that too. Sidebar, before I go into what I was talking about, I recently defended my dissertation, and I have been extraordinarily lazy for the last week. I defended successfully last Saturday. I have been extremely lazy for the last week. Extremely. Let me get back on the ball. I got some things I have to do, some things to prepare for tomorrow and Sunday. So yeah, I'm gonna do better. But wanted to get on here real quick and talk about cycle syncing. Cycle syncing, as most of us know, is that basically in a nutshell, I'll use my mother and I for example. When my mother and I were living together, our cycles would always start at the same time. That's essentially what part of that is. Our cycles were always in line, or if she started on Monday, I would start on Tuesday, or if she started on Wednesday, I would start maybe a day or so later on the same day. And what people also don't realize is that it can happen at any given point when you are constantly communicating with somebody. For example, I have friends. I have some family members too that anytime I get on the phone with them, we always talk, and our cycles usually start at the same time, in around same week. So that's essentially what a little bit of the theory of cycle syncing is. Now, when it comes to cycle syncing for exercise, what's going around social media is the concept of cycle syncing your exercise. Now, if you don't know, if you're a guy watching, or you're, a young lady that is not 100% sure about, I'll go over what my mom taught me growing up about your cycle, and then what's already out there in science. So let me go over the scientific aspect of it first. So you essentially have 4 phases of your cycle in a period of a month. Okay. The first phase is the obvious phase, the phase where you bleed, where your menstruation happens, where menses happens. Put it lightly, where bleeding happens. And it's usually about 1 day, it could be up to 7 days. I know most of us don't like that. Some of us have cycles that are short as 2 days. yeah, so I remember I had a cycle that was 7 days, but made some radical changes, and now, baby, we down to just 5. So that's essentially what. That's essentially your first phase. Your second phase. Let me know if I'm putting it in the wrong order. I might be putting it in the wrong order. You have your follicular phase. So your follicular phase is a phase where essentially you kind of rebound and bounce back into your normal self, your body's normal self. If you get my drift, if you're a female, you understand that. It's just your body basically trying to recuperate and kind of restore or regenerate what it shed for a period of a week. And so during that phase, I mean, of course, the previous week you were low energy, didn't feel like doing anything. Most cases, just put it plainly, when our period is here, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to do too much of anything. Yeah, it's a lot. I think about it in the Bible, they didn't really, they weren't moving during that time. It was not a lot of action. From what I recall in the study, it's a time of cleansing. Ain't nothing happening. You know what I'm saying? Not even sex. So back to that follicular phase. Like I said, it's a little bit of a period of a regeneration period. So you might have some restored energy in there. Next phase, like I said, let me know if I am wrong in these phases in this order. You have a luteal phase. Again, another preparation, kind of a pre-egg release type situation. That's when, energy comes back. You still have your energy. You still have and we're talking about hormones. We're talking about energy. We're discussing the hormones that kind of help regulate that. So, matter of fact, let me look at my notes real quick, make sure that follicular ovulation, excuse me. After follicular is ovulation. Okay. After some things are restored, then you ovulate. That's the point where your energy is up. Sex drive might be crazy. So, because the body is basically saying, hey, let's reproduce. It's ready to do that. I apologize for the mistake. I'm glad I busted out my notes. So ovulation usually happens maybe about 15 to 21 days after the last day of your cycle. And it does serve as the third week of your entire menstrual cycle. And then you have your luteal phase. Like I said, I have to take a look at my notes. Let me see. All right, so your luteal phase, basically, if the egg has not basically been caught for pregnancy or prepared for pregnancy, your luteal phase is basically preparing for uterine shedding, aka the next week, which is your period. So, like I said, that's just kind of what that is with your whole menstrual cycle. Okay, in your first day of your menstrual cycle is bleeding. Okay, so that starts off to a brand new month. So I'll just use me for example, just for transparency. So today I started to spot a little bit. Coincidentally, I'm talking about this while I started to spot. Random, might be TMI, but I started to spot essentially, right? So essentially that is the first day of a brand new cycle for me, okay? So with cycle syncing, when it comes to exercise, okay, knowing that first week is getting ready to happen, I need to take advantage of a week where I prioritize rest, prioritize how my body feels, because essentially, as you might feel fatigued more, you might be irritable more. I don't know if you guys noticed, but breakouts have come a little bit just because my body is preparing for that. This is a good week for me to capitalize just getting some rest. However, when we're talking about exercise, right? So back to the social media thing. So social media, there's a lot of young ladies on social media, both fitness influencers, nutritionists, holistic nutritionists, herbalists, that talk about cycle syncing. But the one group of people I haven't heard any information from about cycle syncing are the gynecologists, are the medical practitioners, such as physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, exercise physiologists. Even some, not all, personal trainers haven't really highlighted a lot, or at least I haven't come across, have not highlighted a lot of information about cycle syncing for exercise. And here's why I think why. Number one, there is research about the concept of cycle syncing. While one article discusses gathering a number of women together and doing various exercises or various types of exercises, that even though it has altered some of the body appearance, or weight has gone down, maybe body fat has gone down, but basically has stated that they really don't consider that to be feasible, because there were some restraints, or individuals not willing to do any ovulation checks or checks where their cycle is during the study. So that's a potential issue. Another study did discuss that while these exercises are ideal for individuals physiologically, in most cases, there is a psychological effect when it comes to certain exercises during the entirety of the menstrual cycle. For example, it talked about preferences of a particular exercise during the follicular phase, how some exercises are ideal during this phase, but a harder exercise is not ideal during the luteal phase of a woman's cycle, partly because the body is getting ready for a new menstrual cycle and bleeding is on the verge of coming. So that could be why those exercises may not be preferred. For example, I normally work out early on Friday mornings, but this past Friday, it was rainy, it was windy, I won't go, okay? So, and also, like I said, with completing a big accomplishment which drained a whole lot of energy out of me, I think I rewarded myself with a little bit of rest. Or I wanted to anyway. Even though I'm not saying you should reward your body with rest. You should always rest often. But after being in school for so long, oh man, I needed that rest. So what I have to say about that, oftentimes when we hear about any type of health scare or health risk or anything of that nature, for some of us, we're going to perceive it as the very thing that is bothering us. Now, that's not to say that cycle syncing for exercise is not effective. I haven't noticed any changes. I usually give myself about a day or so of taking it easy. But taking it easy for me is taking a cycling class, or taking it easy for me is still weightlifting. Going full force for me is 2 days. Okay, 2 days. Early in the morning, something hard. Early in the evening, something hard. So essentially, for some women, I'm probably part of those some women, doesn't really make a difference. I just might be a little bit more tired during the bleed phase. And so in that point, I might be very mindful of my energy levels. I could potentially, take a B12 supplement, something that will help me get going. Drink some Gatorade. Ain't no shame in my game. Have some caffeine in the form of a Pepsi. So it just totally depends on what works for you, the woman, as a body, as your body goes. But perception is everything. Perception is everything. And I continuously pray for the women that deal with endometriosis, fibroids, PCOS. My roommate slash good friend of mine, she deals with PCOS, so I know how serious that can be. So by all means, this is not an opportunity to diminish any of those things. But I want to say that before you hop on a trend, especially with something like your cycle, I highly recommend maybe get the opinion of your gynecologist first, maybe even talk to a personal trainer that's been in the game for over 10 years. Hint, hint, me, been in the game for over 10 years. And my understanding with that is you still want to be very mindful of let me say this. Trainer tip. I always ask my client, especially my female clients, how are they feeling this morning? It's the very first thing. If they tell me something like tired, low energy, I'm not really feeling it, I give them one or two options. The first option, I'm going to send them home. Because if they are really tired and they follow it up with something like, oh, I haven't slept all night, I didn't get any sleep last night, I'm exhausted. So, I mean, no, we're not doing that. So, what we need to do is put your body back in a little bit of a repair. No worries, no harm, no foul. You won't get charged. You just go home and get some rest and prioritize that. And then I'll put you on a schedule for maybe 2 days later and see where we are. That's the first thing I'll do. Second thing I'll do, if they choose to stay and maybe they did have some sleep last night, what I will do is that I usually give my clients an opportunity to focus on form, okay, and just flexibility and mobility. I won't give them something that's hard, especially if they tell me things that they're tired, they can't really get up and down, they're not comfortable. Usually it's an indicator that, there's a cycle going on. So, or bleeding is happening. So at that point, if they want to stay, we usually just focus on form and mobility and flexibility. Just kind of help them feel better. Oftentimes when cycle comes or is approaching or you're on it the first couple of days, you usually complain of headaches, backaches, tender breasts, hips just hurt, all of those things. So I just try to prioritize mobility and flexibility and correct form rather than just getting the job done. So those are one of the two options that I recommend, because I usually do listen when people tell me they're tired right before they work out. I usually ask them how they're feeling, get an idea what's going on, just kind of get an overall assessment, and lets me know the level of exercise or level of intensity that they can potentially go. Okay, and that is without a pre-workout. I don't recommend pre-workouts. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. But when I'm thinking about our own individual perceptions, my perception is this: if I feel good, I'm gonna make it happen. Okay, if I don't feel good because I have a goal, I'm gonna still make it happen, but I'm not gonna go as heavy this time, or I'm gonna go a little bit lighter this time, or I'm gonna focus on flexibility this time. So I do listen to my body, and that's the main thing that I highly recommend. I also didn't see a whole lot of studies on the whole cycle syncing during exercise concept, so I would caution that, because it's a new thing, so it appears from what I read, it has a bigger psychological effect than it does a physiological effect. But that's not to say that it doesn't work. For some, it works beautifully. It just doesn't work well for everybody. Okay, so just want to be mindful of that. I highly encourage you. And I forgot to tell you one thing that my mom taught me when I started my cycle many years ago, and just kind of being mindful of even that concept, and that's the reason why I do what I do. So one of the things that my mom taught me is that you got to be clean during that time. Like, you have to be 100% clean, and you need to be dry. Okay, you don't need to walk around with, if you're gonna wear a sanitary napkin / pad, mind you, this was 1996, so they were kind of sort of using still sanitary napkin. But if you're gonna wear a pad or sanitary napkin, you always need to carry a backup, because you definitely don't want that on you for longer than 2 to 4 hours. Like, even, she said, even then 2 hours might be a stretch. Okay, so I've always carried backups. My mom was a big advocate for, you know what I'm saying, staying dry during that time. My mom was an even bigger advocate to wipe until it's dry down there. That was really big for her. My mom, at 12, my mom did highly advise me to stay away from dishes, sanitary washes, sanitary wipes. She told me to stay away from all that, and scented pads, any of that, because she said, why would you want to mix something that smells like flowers with something that smells like straight up metal the second it hits air? So it makes no sense. She said it's gonna smell worse. So I have always stayed away from scented pads, scented tampons, anything scented. I have always stayed away from it and have no desire to go to it. Even with my mom's recommendation telling me to stay away from feminine washes, I tried it one time, no go. It was not working for me. And I was much younger, and I asked my mom, well, what is it that you use? She said, girl, just use a bar of Dove soap and keep it moving. She said, you do not need all that stuff on you. And so that was one of the many things that she talked to me about. And so same thing with cramping. I talked to her about that. You know, my mom would encourage, like, just move around, get a heating pad, get a hot pad. And if it gets really bad, it's okay to take like an ibuprofen to help with that. But, you know, even then, my mom was not a huge pill popping person at the time. She would just say, you know, keep it moving, that type of thing. My mom, even then, she did say, you know, prioritize the rest when you can. Make sure you keep a good diet. I got a little older, I think I was college age, when my grandma told me about, you know, feminine probiotics. I was probably in my early 20s when she was telling me about feminine probiotics. And I used to be like, yeah, right, grandma, nobody's getting into that. I hit my 30s and I started taking feminine probiotics. Game changer, okay? Game changer. I really think that's what's even shortened my cycles. And made them much more manageable. And just thinking about our hormones as we go through them and cycle syncing and that type of thing. My grandmother was really big on prioritizing gut health her whole life. And so, you know, that has put me in a conscious mindset of what I'm eating, and the level of stress I'm experiencing. Usually when I'm stressed, usually goes to my stomach, as well as like cycle, everything. Everything is attached to your gut health. And so I made sure that I did my due diligence and made sure I got in, you know, the amount of, talking too loud, but make sure I got in a good amount of fruits and vegetables that aid in digestion, but ultimately help with hormone regulation. And probiotics definitely did the trick. I was very shocked. But let's talk about another conversation that I recently, in the last actually 8 months, I had to have, was me drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Don't do it. It's a trap, sis. Because there was a period in time I think it was one time I kept waking up and I just remember thinking, why am I so dehydrated? Why do I feel so like, ugh, why do I feel so weird? Turns out I was overcaffeinated and dehydrated. So, I definitely made a switch, and the crazy thing is that switch resulted in me even not really even I would go a cup a day. I really even haven't had 2 cups in 2 weeks. So, but that's to say the same thing. It's a hormone regulation thing. Okay, I'm just going to put it plainly from my perspective. Why would you want to put a stimulant on your empty stomach before before ending your fast, known as breakfast, okay? Breaking fast, breakfast. Before you break your fast, why would you put a cup of coffee on an empty stomach? And I was doing it at one point every day in a week, Sunday through Sunday. It was nuts. Like I said, at one point I was finding myself over caffeinated and dehydrated. It was the worst feeling ever. And I really wasn't getting any sleep. It was nuts. It was nuts. So switch that up. And like I said, I haven't even gotten any coffee in a while. Will I have a cup now? Sure. I've had plenty to eat. It's a beautiful day in Lexington. I'm done with the dissertation. I don't have any major tasks that I need to do other than you hear me washing clothes. That's the only major task I got. I walk my fur baby, take a nice long walk because it's absolutely gorgeous outside, to a local park here in Kentucky. But yeah, so when we're discussing hormones, it's all about really what you eat and, thinking about getting in your 3 servings of vegetables a day, your 3 servings of fruit a day, staying hydrated. If there is any missing minerals in your diet, really address that with your physician or maybe even a holistic doctor that can provide a testing protocol to see what nutrients you might be lacking, what might be helping. For me, Mary Roos has been pretty good. I'm pretty okay with it. I don't like the pill concept, so I got it in the liquid formula. It's all right. I don't like vitamins, but it's all right. I know I need them. So I just wanted to hop on here and just highlight the importance of just being careful, using discernment, knowing what your body is capable of doing as a young lady, as a female. Me personally, like I said, cycle syncing for exercise, I could definitely tell my mood shifts just based off of what is going on within my body. However, for me personally, I do spend time, I spend a good amount of devotion in the morning, praying to God about my day, asking for God to, remain in my day, keep his hand on me as I go about my day, keep his hand on my car, as I travel, keep his hand on my brothers as they're in North Carolina, keep his hand on my family, keep his hand on my colleagues, keep his hand on my students. I spend a good chunk of the morning proclaiming my day and repenting and studying. And so I spend a good chunk of my day talking to God. That's it. And I, as someone who has gone through situational depression before and someone who has gone through anxiety before, those are very real things. If you are one who is on medication, I highly encourage you to continue that until you see change. However, I challenge you to get to know Jesus. Get to know Jesus and know that his blood heals. And getting to know Jesus and knowing the very thing that he did as we're preparing to celebrate Resurrection Sunday, just knowing what he did was payment on my life. And being able to understand that the power of Jesus Christ in relationship and in his blood, that I am healed from situational depression. I'm healed through anxiety, still healing through grief, am healing through fibroids, healing from anemia, healing from vitamin D deficiency, knowing that you can proclaim Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and know that the blood still works. And that as a result, you don't have to go around saying that, oh man, I have PCOS and depression. Now, like I said, I'm not diminishing it. Those are very real things, okay? Those are when I say very real things, my roommate, my roommate, my good friend, she really did have a bad bout with it. And I believe she's still having some issues with it to this day. It's dreadful. but well, from what I know about the very thing Jesus has done for me, I know that his blood still works. So Patrice, personally, I'm getting better. Let me say that 70% of me is, will go around say, like, for example, if someone said, oh, someone like, Patrice, how you feeling? I'll be like, man, I got a headache. Most times, 70% of the time, I shy away from that statement. There is a book called Words by Kenneth Hagin. Yeah, Kenneth Hagin. And it's a little teeny tiny book from Amazon. And he talks about words. There's healing in our words through the power of Jesus Christ. There's healing in our words. Even though if you're not one that has not come into the relationship with Jesus Christ, you speak what you seek until you see what you speak. Essentially, you speak what you seek until you see what you said. Excuse me. Okay. So if you keep speaking it, keep on speaking it, it's gonna come to fruition. That's just what it is. So I want to create videos that will encourage you to do your own research with these certain things. I firmly believe that a good chunk of what is going on with a lot of us today is tied to the American diet. Could be why I'm not a huge fan of it. I like it. I like it. But I love trying all types of foods, especially food. My favorite one is Mediterranean diet. I think it's so good. I could eat that all day. Yeah, and a lot of that, and the reason why I say I'm not a huge fan of it, the only reason why I'm not a huge fan of it is because the American diet prioritizes overconsumption. And that's with a lot of things. We overconsume working. That's not to diminish that most of us gotta do what we gotta do. You know what I'm saying? I gotta do what I gotta do. But most of us are on a grind culture. If you're like me, I'm an older millennial. A lot of us are coming off the heels of those individuals, the Gen X's and the baby boomers who would work every day for 20 years without taking a vacation. And the only time they have to take some time off is because they now have to prioritize time towards a disease. And so as an elder millennial coming off the heels of baby boomers and Gen X's, my mom was a baby boomer. And so, essentially, prioritizing work all the way through sickness. And so, we overconsume a little bit of the grind culture. We overconsume certain activities. Let me say this. We don't manage our gates. Okay, we don't manage our gates, and you have to be mindful of your gates, okay? Because overconsumption of watching certain things, looking at certain things, and overconsumption of hearing certain things, essentially those things put together, you're gonna spit those things out. And you're gonna say those things. So it's about balance, and that's the reason why I'm not a huge fan of the American diet, because the American diet prioritizes overconsumption. For example, I'll just use Thanksgiving. Now, I love me some Thanksgiving, okay? But I am, for the last couple of years, I don't want a to-go plate. This is it, okay? I really for real don't even want seconds, okay? I've had enough Thanksgiving food today, okay? Now, if I do take a to-go plate, it needs to be gone the next day. The reason why, I hate leftovers. I really do. I do what I gotta do, especially when I'm preparing my lunch and stuff like that. But if I had it on Sunday and I'm gonna eat it on Monday, it needs to be gone after Monday, or I'm not eating it. Maybe Tuesday's a stretch, but me personally. But I'm like that with Thanksgiving food, because again, we prioritize overconsumption. We gotta go back for seconds and thirds. One plate, I'm done. I don't really need any more food. You got your whole butthole. Got your whole booty hole in the shot. You see in your pants. You got your whole butt in the shot. He really just looked at me like, you covering up? I am. But yeah, so I think oftentimes when overconsumption happens, growth happens. And so it has to, because we're being filled with so much stuff. And so if we're over consuming in our American diet, which includes sugars, which includes saturated fats, which we don't prioritize portion control, obviously our body's going to change as a result of the overconsumption, the overgrowth. Our body's gonna respond to the overconsumption of things. It's gonna be an overgrowth, right? And essentially, I believe that's what happens when we put too much stress on our bodies with certain diets, because again, overgrowth is gonna happen. Same thing with being stressed. You know, when we constantly look at the news, I don't look at the news. I catch it on social media and go about my business, okay? And I have people tell me about the news all the time. Cool. So if I hear about it, I'm all right with it. As long as I'm not seeing it, I'm all right. If I watch the news, I'm probably good for about a good 10 minutes. Give me what I need to know in 10 minutes. I'm good. Yeah, I'm not into the news like that. So, sorry, my whole dog got his whole butt out. Yeah, so, I think we should discuss and highlight the importance of, finding something that works well for your body. A routine, yeah, but a routine that encourages you to say, no, I'm done. So, for example, for me, usually Fridays, I'm pretty tired because I've had a very busy week, Monday through Thursday. So Fridays, keep it light. I work from home. I just enjoy kicking my feet up. I'm still very much so working, but just kicking my feet up and just relaxing a little bit, just in the comfort of my own home, in my slippers, still in meetings, but able to get up and stretch when I need to, because I'm in like maybe something appropriate for work, a little comfortable. And even if I do have to go to the office, I'm in jeans. It's something that is telling my body, okay, it's unwind time, right? And so those are things that I think about when overconsumption is at its limit. Usually for me, it's Thursday. And then Friday, I dial it back just to relax. So I say all that to say is that, you can be overconsumed with work, and you can say to yourself, I had enough. Okay, so I think that's really all that is. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to heal our bodies with eating nutrient-dense foods. Now, I'm not no hater. I'm not going to come on here and say, I think you should not do this diet and that diet and whoop-de-whoop-doo, not doing it. Any diet that is going to help you jumpstart your fitness journey, I'll support, okay? It doesn't even matter. However, you could check in with a registered dietitian or your physician to determine if this is the right fit for you. But any diet that prioritizes you getting healthier and getting you started on your fitness journey, I 1000% will support. And also, I'm a 1000% supporter of anybody who sells any products that support a jump start to a fitness journey. I ain't no hater. Look, get your coins, okay? So, but I say that my dog is sick of me talking because he's just trying to get more sun because the sun is shifting. But I just wanted to hop on here really quick about cycle syncing and diets and all that other stuff. Just use discernment. Like I said, in the biblical days, women stayed in the cut during that time. Okay. And when I said earlier about me going maybe a little bit lighter on my exercises, I do respect that, because now, during that time, during exercise only primarily, I'll primarily wear, tampon, no sanitary napkin over here, during the exercise, because that's gross. Or sometimes I wear a cup. But if I wear a cup, I just make sure it's not on a day where I'm doing a whole lot of squatting. Because if you know about a cup, if you know, you know. Probably shouldn't be squatting. But yeah, so those are just things to just be mindful of. One thing, and this is probably gonna go through a small rabbit hole, so bear with me. One thing that I could discuss about overly scented stuff that my mom talked about, and like I said, rabbit hole, forgive me. With overly scented stuff, I realize how bad that can be. And so I've done a little bit of minor changes around my home with that. Just being mindful of that in the consideration of overconsumption. I no longer use wallflowers. No, candles are gone. And even I no longer wash with any commercial detergent. It's either made on my own. I didn't make it this time. I do have the recipe, or it's called Eco. I don't, and actually the crazy thing is that it actually smells better. So, but yeah, I just think about those and wonder if these heavy dyes that are in these things impact our cycles. As to why, we think cycle syncing for exercise might be the better thing, but you got to remember, exercise is about 20% of those changes in our body and our health that we need. The other 80 is about our diet. And so it's just diet and exercise, they just play a role to make make it better, create a better profile. But I just wonder if these other things that are happening in terms of what they call endocrine disruptors, such as heavy dyes in detergent, heavy dyes in scents and candles, heavy dyes in, in our juices, heavy dyes in food, like different in our foods. So I think about that aspect. But then I also think about the levels of stress that we're exposing ourselves to, because we're a country that overconsumes. We like getting on social media and seeing drama, or we enjoy things that are, that just kind of overwhelm us. And or some of us, not all of us, but some of us enjoy things that overwhelm us. So I think about those things rather than saying, hey, let me sync up exercise with my cycle. Like I said, give me about a day. Tomorrow I work out. Felt good today. Actually got a pretty good leg workout today and felt fine. Same thing. I'll just prioritize going to bed a little bit earlier. Get some rest and bounce back on Monday. So, like I said, it's just all about using discernment, knowing how your body feels and even know how you feel psychologically and emotionally. And listening to the Holy Spirit and what it is that He wants you to do for the day. Does He want you to rest? Does He want you to keep going, working out, move your body? So those are the things that I tend to think about. The amount of stress and our diets and just the amount of, I just totally burped. That was really nasty. Sorry. But just a number of other things that I think about that could be essentially kind of throwing our cycles off, which is causing these overgrowths. So those are just things to think about. I say that to say that at one point I was dealing with fibroids really badly. And then I just made a radical decision that I'm not trying to deal with over the top excessive stress. Once I made that decision, in addition to changing some things in my diet and adding a feminine probiotic, game changer. Like shortened my cycle, game changer. And even made it lighter, game changer. Okay. One rule of thumb that I've learned from my gynecologist is that you might have a cramp, but that should be felt maybe about the second or third day, if that, and it shouldn't be too bad. Annoying, yes, but it should not be excruciating, and your cycle should not be heavy, like heavy. Like you should not be feeling a pad every hour. Like yeah, you should. She said that's not healthy. There's some other stuff going on, the fibroids, the PCOS, that type of thing. So adenometriosis. She said those. Yeah, she said that's when we come across issues, but you should not have a cycle that is super duper heavy. But yeah, maybe consider, first talk to the Holy Spirit to see if it is fitting and appropriate for you to maybe see a physician that may be able to do hormone testing to see where you are. Maybe talk to a holistic doctor to see if hormone testing is for you, or what ways that you can regulate hormones. As far as I know, exercise does a really good job with that, but I'm totally biased because I'm a trainer. So, but yeah, I figured I'd just hop on here. I can put my arm down because my dog moved. He basically told me I was making too much noise. So I hope this long 45-minute video helped. I didn't mean for it to be 4 or 5 minutes, but I'm gonna cut it off and finish laundry because my washing machine stopped. But you have a fantastic Saturday. Hope you get outside today. If it's gorgeous like it is, it means perfectly blue skies here in Kentucky. I'm gonna take advantage of that. You guys have a great day. I love you.